So we're back for day 2 of Unitask Get Social Activity, and today is all about the psychology of social media content. I've just actually handed in my assignment, my last assignment for my Masters in Consumer Psychology, so it's really nice to be able to put to use some of the many things that I've learned this year. I do have some slides to share, so if you just bear with me and I'll share my screen. So today's session follows on from yesterday and also last week's webinar. If you did miss those, then please feel free to go back and look at them. If you didn't manage to catch them, then my name's Karen, and today I'm talking to you about the psychology of good marketing and good social media content. And this is because I believe to be good at marketing, to be great, you have to understand the way people think and act the way they do. And the study behind that is psychology. So today we're going to look at some psychological principles that you can use in your marketing activity. You'll be able to use them in your social media too, but you'll be able to use them throughout your marketing. Don't worry, I'm not going to give you a really heavy picture of the brain and pull it apart. I'm going to give you a very much oversimplified version of the brain. When we make decisions, 3 parts of our brain are involved: the primal, the emotional, and the rational. And actually where we make most of our decisions is in the emotional brain, so 99%. And anyone who says to me, yes, but that doesn't apply to a business environment, that's not true. We make emotional decisions in work too, because we have to feel like we trust the people that we're dealing with. And there's lots of research that goes all the reasons why emotional purchasing happens in a work environment. So from a social media perspective, what we need to think about then is, how do we appeal to the emotional part of the brain? One of the best ways is to tell stories. And the reason is that if we look at this picture on the left, where we are told just facts alone, only a couple of parts of our brains light up and become involved. However, when we're told a story, you look at all these places in the right-hand image that light up when our brain is digesting a story. That's why we remember them more. And this is the reason why the Tesco's Food Love Stories campaign worked so well. And also there were stories that people could identify with. So I promised to talk to you about the principles of persuasion. I was going to be very brief. So in case you want to look up and understand it anymore, then this is the book that you should be looking towards. And in that book, Cialdini talks about 6 principles of persuasion: reciprocating, liking, commitment and consistency, authority, social proof, and scarcity. And for time reasons, we're just going to look at 4 of them today. So the first one is liking. We tend to say yes to the people we like, the people that we can identify some commonality. This is absolutely crucial when choosing images that you're going to put on social media channels. So you need to be looking to have people, if you're reaching young people, you're looking to make sure your imagery is younger people. If you're trying to reach busy people who need to come into a convenience store, then you're looking to show that type of imagery. The other things that you can do to invoke the liking principle is to behave like a friend, not a brand. So basically show your customers that you understand them. That's why I love this so well, because this is a section in a retail shop where it's just pretend you made it yourself area of the shop. The other is to make your copy style really easy to digest, really friendly, as we see on many types of food packaging. Also, fight for the same causes as your customer. So that might be that you support particular causes that you know your customer is interested in. So the second one is social proof. So we're more likely to say yes to people who have people around them that show they know what they're doing. So you'll probably see this on all sorts of websites. So this is booking.com, and you've got popular now, it's in high demand, booked 325 times in the last 24 hours. Or 93% of people recommended, or it's already been booked 6 times today. So how can you pull that across to social media? Well, I'm going to give you an example from a charity that I'm a trustee of, where we were doing a fundraising piece for a Christmas tree festival. And what we were doing is we were actually selling memorialized decorations that could be used on the tree. And so we created a Just Giving form. We put some stuff on our social account that the charity social account, that what we were doing. But every time somebody bought one of these special memorial hearts for the decorations, we posted about it on social. So what we were doing is we were creating that social proof element that other people are doing this, so you might want it too. So there's lots of ways that you can bring that concept of social proof into your social media. And there are simple ways as well, like showing prizes that you have won, or awards that you've received, or things that your customers have said. The third one that I'm going to talk about is scarcity. So people want more of the things that they can have less of. There's a very famous psychological experiment looking at 2 jars of cookies. Now, these jars of cookies had exactly the same cookies inside them. The only difference was one jar was full, one was half empty. So in the experiment, which one do you think people went to? They went to one that was half empty because it created that feeling that, well, that one must be good because other people have wanted it too. So you can bring about this by looking to people like Amazon. We only have 2 left in stock. If you want this tomorrow, order within the next 22 minutes and choose 1-day shipping. That kind of urgency element added to your copy style on social, but also to the offers that you're putting out there. You know, make sure that they're not available for a long time. Maybe there's something different about the offer just for a particular short weekend, for example. And the fourth one I was going to mention is authority. So we say yes to people who are experts because we think they know what they're talking about. So if we were to look into a retail environment for one of the best examples of this, we looked at Apple for their Genius Bar. The fact that they've called it a Genius Bar, they've elevated and created that new authority and knowledge behind the people who are working on that customer service desk. So from a food perspective, one of the ways to do this is to talk around the stories around the food, and particularly if there is anything new and different. So maybe it's a vegan product and you want to talk about the journey to becoming vegan. Maybe it's fitting into one of the other food trends. Is basically adding that story and that additional knowledge about the product into your social. Another concept that I wanted to just run through, and it's another one that you'll probably need to go away and read a bit more about, is cognitive biases. So we all have them, and they're described as the systematic pattern of deviation from normal rationality and judgment, whereby inferences about other people and situations may be drawn in a logical fashion. So basically what we're saying is we make decisions, but they don't always make rational sense. And they actually impact how we buy, how we sell, how we interact with each other, how we think and we feel. So they're really important. And actually understanding the cognitive biases that people have can help you increase the chances of influencing them to think the way you want them to think, but basically that you're the best person to buy from. Thing is, we are often very unaware of our cognitive biases and how they impact our lives. But every cognitive bias exists for a reason. And in most cases, they are to save our brains time, because our brains are so busy and they've got so much going on. Now, if you want to look up a little bit more, there's over 200 known biases. Just type into Google, Wikipedia, cognitive biases, and you'll get this long list. And it's actually quite an amusing read as you think about some of your own behaviour. So the Wikipedia list is quite long. And so there's a guy called Buster Benson who's worked for companies like Amazon, Twitter and Slack. And he's used these cognitive biases to develop the businesses, the products and the services that they offer. And he has created this much nicer image of all the cognitive biases. And he's actually broken them down into 4 areas. What should we remember? Too much information, not enough meaning, and need to act fast. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a couple of examples of our brains having too much information and how understanding the cognitive biases can help you determining what social content you should produce. So we've taken too much information and we're going to look at the picture superiority effect, which is basically pictures and images are more likely to be remembered than words. In this research example here, 3 days after somebody has seen some information, only 10% remember it with text or audio, but 65% remember with a text or picture. And this is the reason why over the years we've seen a rise in infographics, as they help us to remember information, but also cut down that information to the key things that we need to know. Be careful with how much information you put on your post, just thinking about once your content is onto a mobile screen and quite small, making sure that it still stands out. But things like using bright colours, like has been done here, will all help that. Another one, cognitive bias, that's all about our brains having too much information, is this one, which is all about choosing images that stand out, and we're more likely to remember the unusual. So I know that effectively what you're selling is boxes of product, but that's not very interesting as a social media post. So how can you make that image more exciting? Things like this is what the principle is about. You wouldn't normally see ice cream inside a sandwich bun. However, because this has been done, this is a sort of thing that would stand out on a social feed. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is what you need to do, but you need to take the concept of that's what it's talking about. How can you then apply that to your social? Well, one of the ways is to avoid using stock imagery. I think businesses all over have used stock imagery with a person with a headset on, and it's been so overused, it's not different when you see it, and it could be any company that you are referring to. So what you need to do for social is actually think about what's in the box and how can you make that product more exciting. And you can do that in two ways. You can either work with the brands that you're selling, and many of which are able to support you with imagery, and the other is to create your own image. I worked with a wholesaler where we had a social campaign, and we actually selected which products were going to be used, and then we made sure that we took interesting images of each of those products to help sell those in and make the social feeds, make it stand out, because there's no point going to the effort of writing content and posting if the image is not going to be remembered. Now, as you know, I've already said, there's over 200 cognitive biases. Could be here for days talking about how you apply them to social. There's this really good article which has been added to the links on the email that you've received today, all about how to use cognitive biases in social content. So go away and read that, and it will build on what I've just told you. The other thing is there's quite a lot around the area of imagery for using on social. And that's one of the things that whoever is the lucky winner of the competition to win 3 months social support from ourselves will receive. We'll take a psychological look to your imagery, not just using cognitive biases, but how they're set up with the rule of thirds, making sure that they're sharp enough. Lots of advice around that area, all available to the winner of the competition. And if you want to go away and read more about cognitive biases, there is actually a handy app that you can have on your phone called Pocket Biases. It is produced by the guy I talked about, Buster Benson, and he talks about each one and then how you can apply it from a marketing perspective. I'm conscious I've told you quite a lot in quite a short space of time. So if you do want to learn more, there's a whole set of books by Dan Ariely, which may well be of interest to you, all around this idea of our brains helping us to make irrational decisions, and how you can utilize that from a sales, marketing, social media perspective. Of course, we are continuing our Get Social activity this week. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about social advertising, but you can go back and look at the content that we've already produced, and we hope to see you on Thursday and Friday too. In today's email, you have 3 links. One is a link to an article all about those 6 principles of persuasion that I mentioned in the first half of this session. And then there's also 2 very, very handy articles that I come back to over and over again because they're always up to date. And basically these two articles go through all the different image sizes that you might need on every social account, and all the file formats and specs for producing video for social media. So I hope you go away from today thinking about those psychological principles and how you can apply that to your social media content, and then go away and digest the content in these two articles. Remember, you can come back to them over and over again. Every time somebody asks me to create a social graphic, and it's maybe been a month since I last read these articles, I go here and just double check to make sure I've got the most up-to-date sizing for them. So I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.